Okay, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Welcome to the launch of the FAPESP program for the South Atlantic and Antarctic. And to open this session, I'd like to invite the Secretary of the State of São Paulo, Science, Technology and Innovation, Professor Vahan Agopian. The President of FAPESP, Professor Marco Antônio Zago. Professor Thelma Krug, member of the FAPESP Board of Trustees and Vice Chair of the IPCC from 2015 to July of 2023. Representing this National Council for Scientific and Technology Development, Professor Olival Freire. Rear Admiral Ricardo Jacques Ferreira from Interministerial Commission for the Resources of the Sea. The Scientific Director of FAPESP, Professor Márcio de Castro Silva Filho. Dr. Gilles Spinet from Institute of Earth of the CNRS. And the Secretary of International Affairs at the University of Buenos Aires, Dr. Patricio Ortiz. Well, we'll now give the floor to Professor Marco Antônio Zago, President of FAPESP.
Obrigado. Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to FAPESP. My compliments to Vahan Agopian, State Secretary for Science, Technology and Innovation of the State of São Paulo, the Rear Admiral Ricardo Jacques Ferreira from the Interministerial Commission for Resources of the Sea of the Brazilian Navy, and Patricio Conereiro Ortiz, Secretary for International Affairs of the University of Buenos Aires, and Gilles Pinet from the Institute of Earth from the Centre National de la Recherche Scientifique from France, Márcio de Castro Filho, Scientific Director of FAPESP, and I take the opportunity to compliment also Carlos Américo Pacheco, CEO of FAPESP, and Fernando Menezes, Administrative Director. Also to compliment Thelma Krug, member of the IPCC and of the Board of Trustees of FAPESP. Peter William Thompson, United Nations General Secretary's Special Envoy for the Ocean, who will participate by video. And Dr. Olival Freire, Scientific Director of CNPq. And this, yes. My friends, colleagues, researchers, I am very glad and honored to open this conference on research with focus on the South Atlantic and the Antarctic. I see this meeting as an excellent opportunity to expand the ongoing research of different groups, as well as an opportunity to forge new international alliances to collaborate in this area. I ask if the slides, yes. Don't put out the light. I wish to welcome our guests from France, from Argentina, and from Brazil, the three initial partners of this long-term program. I am sure that once the three founder partners have started to operate together, new additions to this consortium will follow, both from abroad and from other regions of Brazil. We should emphasize that the South Atlantic is bordered by three countries at the west side: Brazil, Argentina, and Uruguay, and 5 from the east border, including South Africa, Namibia, and Angola. And in Brazil, 14 other states, in addition to the state of São Paulo. Thus, there is ample space for expansion, which need not to be limited to the bordering countries or states. Although it represents 11% of the total volume of Earth's oceans, the South Atlantic Ocean is the less explored sea, scientifically and for its economic potential. The amount of data available is strikingly scarce as compared, for instance, with the North Atlantic Ocean. Thus, one of the aims of the program is to fill in this gap and bring new contributions in all areas of knowledge, including physical and biological oceanography, an inventory of ocean resources, its role in climate and in rain regimes determination, the energy transition, the economic and international relations issues, and finally, an important role in science diplomacy. Conservation of marine ecosystem is a strong cornerstone of the research of the three founder partners. Brazil, the state of São Paulo, Argentina, and France have a long history of research in the oceans, and many collaborations between research groups already exist. We do not aim at inventing the wheel, but instead we feel that there is a favorable environment for us, research agencies, to strengthen the bottom-up collaborations. FAPESP has provided a strong support for oceanographic research along its 62 years of existence. For instance, we linked more than 40,000 grants and fellowships awarded by FAPESP, roughly 15% of our total, to one or more of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals to which the project contributes. The results show that we supported more than 4,000 and 5,000 projects, respectively, related to the Objective 6, Clean Water and Sanitation, and Objective 14, Life Underwater. Within our strategic programs, biodiversity, and global climate changes, we have supported more than 300 projects with keywords such as Atlantic Ocean, temperature of the ocean surface, interactions of the ocean with atmosphere, ocean circulation, and paleoceanography, for instance. In 2012, FAPESP acquired the oceanographic ship Alpha Crucis, and in 2013, the oceanographic boat Alpha Delfini. Last year, researchers and journalists from FAPESP participated in the Amaryllis expedition organized by CNRS, that collected the samples from the marine underground with the main objective to study the secular climate changes in the region around the mouth of the Amazon River. And last week, during the visit of President Macron to University of São Paulo, the rector of the university and the president of CNRS inaugurated a CNRS International Center, and one of its objectives is to carry on ocean research. FAPESP is also one of the scientific founder members of the IPOS, an initiative toward building an international panel for ocean sustainability to be officially launched next year at the UNOC in Nice. Thus, what we are launching today is a research program for 5 years with many components, such as joint research projects, PhD and postdoc fellowships, an annual conference on ocean research, and resources for instrumentations. A fundamental goal of the program should be to set up a large digital repository for the participants to share the data with a strong support from digital technologies and artificial intelligence. Thus, in the next 2 weeks, FAPESP will launch a call for young researchers that wish to participate in the program and ask the researchers who will participate in the program to set up the basis for a data center and a repository to facilitate data collection and access for all the participants. Obviously, such ambitious objectives cannot be achieved without a more ample basis than that represented here today. Thus, this meeting is only the kickoff of a much ample movement that will need the support and active participation of national and international partners, such as the Brazilian and Argentine navies, the IBAMA, the Brazilian Institute for Biodiversity, ICMBio, Instituto Chico Mendes, and the Federal Research Agency, CNPq, here represented. Marine research centers along the Brazilian coast will be also welcome, as well as a link to the Argentinian program Pampa Azul. We foresee several possible international partners, such as the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, the Atlantic International Research Center, AIR from Portugal, whose at least 2 representatives are here present today, and the Global Research Council, GRC, to cite only 3 examples. I wish to thank the organizing committee, in special the leadership of Alexander Turra, our International Relations Office, and the staff of FAPESP for organizing this meeting. I wish also to recognize and thank the researchers who came to this meeting, many of them from abroad, in particular from France and Argentina. The authorities and representatives of institutions give a special weight to the legitimacy of this initiative, a special acknowledgement to the participation of the representation of the Brazilian Navy here in São Paulo. As I pointed out, we have a long agenda to organize in these 2 days of meeting, and I wish you all success in elaborating the initial projects that will start this program. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Zago. We now give the floor to Dr. Patricio Ortiz, Secretary of International Affairs at the University of Buenos Aires. Here, please.
Hello, hi to everyone. Dear authorities from Brazil, from FAPESP, from the Secretary of Science and Technology, from CNEPQ, also from CNRS, dear Brazilian, French, and Argentinian colleagues and friends. It is a pleasure for me to be here today at the opening of the seminar representing the University of Buenos Aires at the launching of this ambitious research project on the South Atlantic, promoted by FAPESP, also joined by global partners such as CNRS from France. It is interesting, but the picture of this project, Brazil, France, and Argentina, starting a scientific project together, is very significant regarding the current situation of the cooperation of the University of Buenos Aires and Argentina, probably, because if you look into the indicators on science indicator during the 21st century, what you will find is that inside the three main scientific partners of Argentina and the University of Buenos Aires, let's say, depending on the indicator, but let's say that talking about joint scientific publications, first, Brazil and second France are one of the main partners that we have. And I think it's very significant that this project also started with these names involved. Before sharing with you some thoughts and reflections about the project, I would like first to make a mention to the fact that we are discussing about a scientific research project on the South Atlantic today. That is April 2, which in Argentina is a very significant date because it's the date that we commemorate the War of Malvinas and all the people who died during this situation in the 80s. As you know, Argentina state has persisted in its claim of sovereignty over the Malvinas Island to the United Kingdom, to the UN, for more than a century and a half. And in the same way that Argentina Republic does, the University of Buenos Aires also affirms and expresses our vocation of sovereignty over the Malvinas Islas and seeks to contribute to the national strategy by carrying out actions precisely like this, such as what PROASA represents, a scientific cooperation project with outstanding international partners based on mutual interest and benefits, peaceful, that only seeks to produce greater knowledge about the South Atlantic and the Antarctic for the humankind. Having said that, I would like to thank FAPESP and Professor Sago for inviting the University of Buenos Aires to be part of this project. I met Professor Sago many years ago when he was beginning his first mandate as rector of the University of Sao Paulo, which is one of the most important partners of the UBA here in the region in South America. And I remember very clear, it was a long time ago, but I remember very clear that since that meeting he brought to the discussion between Sao Paulo and the University of Buenos Aires, the idea, a central idea, that was that Sao Paulo and Buenos Aires cooperation should have and must have a priority size, a priority space in our international policy. And it's fundamentally on this key idea that I wanted to reflect with you today. I am an economist specialized on international relations and scientific cooperations. I could contribute very little to the discussion on the oceanographic research discussion on this seminar. This is why there are outstanding specialists and researchers from the University of Buenos Aires also joining this seminar, like Professor Alberto Piola and others that will join. But I would like to share with you a general view in which we frame this project from the University of Buenos Aires. Regardless the current complex situation in Argentina, and believe me, if there is a sector of my country that is in a complicated situation right now, are the universities and the science and technology system. I think that especially from universities, especially from science, we have the responsibility to continue thinking, to continue imagining, to continue planning a different possible future. Every historical moment comes to an end, and our responsibility in any case will be to think of a different future for our country and our region. I think that for Argentina, the only possible and robust strategy for development is a productive model based on science, technology, and innovation, but not a model with emphasis on science. What I am talking about is a model based on the development of technological capabilities. And of course, this strategy, in the frame of a regional discussion, requires an integration with Brazil, not only on the economical, not only on the commercial and cultural areas, but also in the scientific and technological. Argentina and Brazil needs to deepen the integration on their technological capabilities to be able to think of themselves as a system. Both countries start from a solid base, but this integration needs to be planned and financed. This is why the international policy of the University of Buenos Aires moves in this direction, in the sense of the national and regional interest, and we defined our international project also taking into account the necessary contribution that we must make to as a national strategic asset to the development of the country. While we are working with FAPESP, CNRS, and USP in the implementation of PROASA, we are also working, for instance, tomorrow we have a meeting with Butantan. We are also, when we talk about Butantan, we are talking about the main public company for development of drugs and vaccines in Brazil and the region. And we are also working with Butantan development a program that includes 4 strategic and complementary lines in biotechnology. We plan to work in such a way that the strategy will be the development of complete regional technological capabilities. That is to say that from the association between Butantan and the UBA, the association between Sao Paulo and Buenos Aires, a complement will emerge that will allow us to have a complete capacity in biotechnological products such as vaccines. We are also working very close with USP, and probably since the mandate of Professor Sago, but also then with Professor Bahan Agopian when he was rector of the USP. We've been working in several projects, international research projects, that involve the relationship of both universities. A couple of weeks ago, Professor Carlotti also visited the UBA and signed with our rector, with Professor Helpi, 2 agreements that makes up a strategic alliance between USP and the University of Sao Paulo. Those agreements involves the joint formation of PhD candidates. We are reorganizing the system to be admitted in our PhD programs to be able to jointly develop the education of these futures doctors with the supervision of both universities. And also, as a part of the same program, during the month of April, we will open the first call, the first USP-UBA call to finance also research stays between both universities. This is the policy of international linkage that we carry out from the University of Buenos Aires with a clear priority in Brazil and in Sao Paulo. This is the scope of the institutions and activities in which we are working, and this is also the general frame in which we understand the impact of PROASA. I thank you all very much for your time. I thank FAPESP for the invitation. I thank CNRS also for joining this international project, which I wish a lot of luck, not only because it is of its specific importance, but also because I consider that it advances exactly in the sense of the interest of our region. Thank you very much. Obrigado.
Thank you, Dr. Ortiz. We now give the floor to Dr. Gilles Pinay from Institute of the Earth of the CNRS.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. Sorry for my voice, but too much difference of temperature between inside and outside here. On behalf of Antoine Petit, the CEO of the French National Center of Scientific Research, I would like to thank FAPESP for allowing us to participate to this very exciting scientific endeavor that represents the South Atlantic and Antarctic program. Antoine Petit was here last week in Sao Paulo to sign several research agreements with FAPESP and USP. This new program is another concrete initiative to reinforce our collaboration. You can be sure that we will largely mobilize the French community of 7,000 researchers, engineers, technicians, PhD and postdocs working on marine sciences through the strong partnership of CNRS with the 17 universities of marine sciences in France. So we will also do our best to align our existing national financial research mechanisms, such as the Priority Research and Equipment Program, to propose joint collaborative research calls. Moreover, we will also find ways by which our existing research vessels, laboratories, long-term environmental research programs, and field stations, especially in sub-Antarctica and Antarctica, that can be available for scientific cooperation. So my colleagues will present these tools in more details during these 2 days, which I really hope that there will be very fruitful exchanges of researches and ideas to propose that project. So I want to be rather short before I lose all my voice, but once again, thank you very much for inviting the CNRS to participate to the preparation of the PROASA, the call especially, which will be a great tool to reinforce our scientific cooperation between the University of Sao Paulo and Sao Paulo itself, but also with our colleagues from Argentina. So thanks again. Obrigado.
Thank you very much. We now give the floor to the Rear Admiral Ricardo Jacques Ferreira from Interministerial Commission for the Resource of the Sea.
Mr. Secretary, Professor Zago, in whose name I would salute all the participants on this seminar. It is with great pleasure that the Secretariat of the Interministerial Sea Resources Commission participates in this seminar, an excellent initiative to increase our understanding of the South Atlantic and Antarctica. Therefore, on behalf of the Commander of the Navy, I congratulate the organizers of this important event. For us, any initiative that draws society's attention to the relevance of the sea is very welcome. And that's why we are here with you today. The Interministerial Sea Resources Commission, CIRME, is a deliberative and advisory board created in 1974, which coordinates actions related to the National Policy for Sea Resources, implements the Brazilian Antarctic Program, and carries out the duties established in the National Coastal Management Plan. Currently, 18 ministries and the Navy Command are part of the CIRME, federal institutions with a direct interest in maritime affairs. It is coordinated by the Brazilian Maritime Authority, a role performed by the Navy Commander. CIRME, over its 50 years of existence, has presented concrete results such as carrying out scientific research and maintaining Brazil's continued presence in Antarctica, in São Pedro and São Paulo, and in Trindade and Martin Vaz Islands. The establishment of the external limits of the Blue Amazon and the growth of knowledge about the living and non-living resources existing in this area. The following plans are underway within the scope of CIRME. The Sectoral Plan for Sea Resources, in its 11th version, the National Coastal Management Plan, and the Brazilian Continental Platform Survey Plan. The Commission also implements PROANTAR, in accordance with the National Policy for Antarctic Affairs. These plans and programs are drawn up by the 19 members of the Commission, and its actions are conducted in a coordinated manner by representatives of the ministries, the scientific community, the Brazilian Navy, and several partners from different levels of government, civil society, and the private sector, who combine efforts, knowledge, skills, and means within an environment of cooperation and mutual support to achieve our goals, optimizing the use of human, material, and financial resources. And here's the first thing that we would like to share with you, the possibility to use CIRM to make PROASA even bigger. The Brazilian Navy provides ships and aircraft to support scientific research at sea in oceanic islands and in Antarctica by enabling researchers to board our ships, facilities, and scientific stations in remote locations. Additionally, through CIRM, Brazilian Navy coordinates the following actions: marine spatial planning in partnership with the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, the PROANTAR, the scientific research program on oceanic islands, which covers the archipelago of São Pedro e São Paulo and Trindade and Martim Vaz Islands. In this context, we celebrate the significant number of 7,400 supported researchers. All this in close coordination with the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation. The Navy also coordinates the Brazilian Ocean Observation and Climate Studies System, GUS Brazil, conducted by the Hydrography and Navigation Directorate. Regarding the MSP, it is worth mentioning that its implementation as a public policy was a commitment made by Brazil in 2017 during the United Nations Ocean Conference. MSP is a participatory process based on temporal and spatial allocation of human activities in marine areas to achieve social and ecological goals, providing sustainability and legal framework to current and future uses of the sea. Needless to say, without the studies carried out by many of the researchers in this room, the use of this governance tool would be impossible, demonstrating the relevance of the topics covered in this seminar. In the same way, scientific research carried out on the White Continent also stands out, as it is fundamental for understanding the processes that take place in high latitudes, their connections with the South Atlantic, and their regional and global impact. Furthermore, Antarctic research ensures that Brazil continues to participate actively in the governance of that region, given Antarctic research invaluable geopolitical importance. Therefore, regarding to PROANTAR, the following topics stand out: the continuity of surveys in the area of meteorology and oceanography, expanding the predictive capacity of models and observation systems; the identification of the biotech potential of Antarctic fauna and flora; assessments in the field of medicine, investigating changes in the human mind and body when subjected to extreme conditions; paleontological work, which allows us to understand the formation and evolution of the southern continent and its connection with South America; and studies on climate change in Antarctica and the resulting effects on the entire planet, in addition to other actions foreseen in the 10-year plan for Antarctic science, which aims for greater diversity and scope for Brazilian scientific research in the coming years. Thus, we hope to continue with the success of the results achieved over the 42 years of the longest-running national research program. These are challenges compatible with the size of the Blue Amazon and with Brazilian interests in the southern region. To overcome them, CIRM counts on institutional and financial support from all the members. Furthermore, many of the actions are implemented thanks to the support of partners such as Petrobras, the National Bank for Economic and Social Development, and the National Council for Scientific and Technological Development, CNPq. CECIRM sees itself as the hub of the sea in Brazil, and we are always available to contribute to connect those who, like the Secretariat, share the noble mission of better knowing, understanding, protecting, and using the sea in an orderly and sustainable manner, as well as to understand the processes that happen in high latitudes, their connections with the South Atlantic, and their impact both regional and global. That's why CECIRM, for now on, is a partnership with PROASA. Thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Well, we now give the floor to the Scientific Director of FAPESP, Professor Márcio de Castro Silva Filho.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I would like to, first of all, to greet my colleagues from this opening session and also my colleagues in the audience. We are delighted to have you all here. And I have to make a few comments on this very important initiative. It's a sort of a dream come true, a long story that has been initiated some years ago that's now becoming real due to the effort of many people in the scientific arena of São Paulo, but also with people from CNRS and Argentina. So I think that this is an strategic theme for not only for São Paulo or Brazil, but for the entire region in the Atlantic Ocean. And also I think that's another important topic to be addressed today is its interdisciplinary topic. So it brings together specialists in different areas of this field. So this is a great opportunity to assemble very talented people within the state of São Paulo, but also with the other founding members to collaborate together. But also this is not a closed group. This is something that I would like to stress as well. So this is an opportunity to bring new people to this very important initiative. And I'm pretty sure that with the following years, we will address many important issues because of this strategic nature. And I wish you all a very exciting journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Márcio. We now have a video from Peter Thompson, the UN Secretary General's Special Envoy for the Ocean. Please.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, warm greetings to you all gathered today for the launch of Sao Paulo Research Foundation's program, the South Atlantic and Antarctica, PROASA. When examining the changes underway at the planet Earth's poles, we are standing upon a daunting threshold, possibly existential consequences for humanity and for a huge sway of the planet's biodiversity. Apart from any other factor, only consider that the ice sheets of Greenland and Antarctica store about 2/3 of all the planet's fresh water, and that as a result of global warming, they are both steadily losing their ice mass. The prospect of an ice-free Arctic Sea to the slowing of the Southern Ocean's overturning circulation. Great changes are observably underway. State of the Ocean report issued by the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission in 2022 said that currently the quantitative description of the ocean is drastically incomplete. And as a result, current knowledge is insufficient to effectively inform solutions to the ocean that humanity is facing. Our knowledge is insufficient. Thus, in putting together these great changes with the insufficiency of our knowledge, I find myself in a position of both warmly commending the launch of PROASA today and of pointing the hugely important scientific challenges and responsibilities that are confronting you. While I'm given the privilege of speaking to you today in my capacity as the UN Secretary General's Special Envoy for the Ocean, in truth, my words are actually those of a grandfather, deeply concerned for the future security of 4 granddaughters. The world is still on course towards global warming this century of somewhere close to 3 degrees. The Secretary General has described that as an unlivable world, glimpses of which we see today around the planet in rampant wildfires, destructive floods, violent storms, and life-choking marine heat waves. I refuse that future. And in the name of intergenerational justice, I urge you all to examine whatever you can do at personal, civic, national, and international levels to enable the transitions required of our socio-economic systems to avoid otherwise tragic times. We're all aware of the triple planetary crisis that we're now facing in the form of climate change, biodiversity loss, and rampant pollution, and that in addressing solutions to the crisis, the ocean, covering 70% of the planet's surface, has a massive role to play. Whenever mention is made of the blue economy, we must emphasize it is the sustainable blue economy we are seeking to grow. Logically and hugely important to the principle of intergenerational justice to which I've just alluded, another round of linear exploitation of finite planetary resources is just not sustainable. Without doubt, conditions in Antarctica and its surrounding waters will be at the very foundation of achieving this sustainable relationship with the ocean. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, science tells us that if we do not preserve 30% of the planet by 2030, we will lose vast swathes of the planet's biodiversity, a loss which may well have existential consequences for Homo sapiens. The Global Biodiversity Framework, to which all nations committed in 2022, includes a target to preserve 30% of the planet's land and sea by 2030. Since the ocean covers over 70% of the ocean, biodiversity-rich, climate-smart areas of the ocean to meet the 30 by 30 challenge on time. I leave that question with you to cogitate upon. But surely the waters of the Southern Ocean, the South Atlantic, have a huge role to play in this regard. In closing, I'd like to recognize Brazil's leadership of G20 this year and its determination to progress the O20 platform for the good of the ocean. As we all strive onwards to the next UN Ocean Conference in Nice in June next year, work within the O20 process will assume elevated importance. I look forward to working with you all to assist with progress and hope to meet some of you this month at the UN Decade of Ocean Science Conference in Barcelona, or at our Ocean Conference in Greece. Many of us will also be present at the Immersed in Change high-level ocean event being held in Costa Rica this June, and at the COP of the Convention on Biological Biodiversity being held in Colombia in October. In all of these gatherings, we expect honest assessment of the progress of SDG 14's implementation, along with breakthroughs in the ocean science and financial solutions we need for the sustainable blue economy to progress to the levels required for future human security. Everything is connected. The South Atlantic, Southern Ocean, and Antarctica have an outsized role in the well-being of humankind on planet Earth. With that in mind, I wish you all and the PROASA program every success.
Okay, we now give the floor to Professor Thelma Krug, member of FAPESP Board of Trustees and Vice Chair of the IPCC from 2015 to July 2023. Please.
Thank you, Marcelo, very much. And good afternoon to all, and to our invitees from France and also from Argentina. It's a pleasure. Professor Zago, if you allow me, I think that the invitation that came from FAPESP came from our last meeting of the steering committee, or the trustee, the board of trustees, when Professor Zago was talking about the seminar of today's, and he was talking also about the launch of PROASA. And I asked for the floor and I said, Professor Vago, I'm so enthusiastic about this. And being from the climate change, you have a big bias towards this, right? So I'm not from the ocean myself, as my friend from Argentina is not a person that is deeply involved with the ocean. I'm more terrestrial than in the oceans. But today, it's very impossible for us to talk about things in isolation, elements of the climate system in isolation. We cannot talk about the ocean and the atmosphere and land and cryosphere in isolation. Everything interacts. And some programs that Professor Zago was showing already recognizes this big interaction. So it's a pleasure for me really to be addressing, this launch of the PROASA. This program, from my point of view, is not only relevant from the scientific point of view, but obviously it's going to enhance our scientific knowledge on the physical changes that can be attributed both to the greenhouse gas emissions, but also to anthropogenic climate change. And people may not see too much of the difference, but we have to recognize that the oceans sequester about 25% of the annual greenhouse gas emissions. And there is a concern, scientific concern, that we don't know if this will continue to be the behavior of the oceans with the climate change and warming. So this is still an area of scientific interest. So I see the program as a holistic package that will certainly place FAPESP, the state of São Paulo, and I would say the country under the eyes of the international community. I see, as many have said already, this is a seed. We have two big partners from France and from Argentina, and I'm absolutely sure that as many other programs that we have had in Brazil with support from FAPESP also have existed for decades. It still exists. I would cite the LBA, the large-scale biosphere atmosphere experiment in Amazonia. How many years? I think that it's a long-lived project that I'm absolutely sure, Professor Zago, that this is the seed. And I see that this program, PROASA, as being one of the examples that in the future we will look and say, well, this is like LBA, exists for decades. Well, but, I was introduced as also being from the IPCC for 21 years. I was a member of the Bureau of the IPCC, which is recognized as the leading, internationally recognized agency, let's say, panel on climate change issues for the last 8 years as vice chair. And today I had, we didn't say this, but I head of the steering committee of the Global Climate Observance System, and I'm very happy to see Sabrina here from the French delegation, who is the head of the oceanic panel. And I'm sure that she's going to be quite helpful into this. We were going to work together to make this program as rich as possible. So talking a little bit about my experience in the IPCC, it was very common that we would say that because IPCC doesn't do research on its own, but it assesses the literature worldwide. So in all areas like, the physical base of climate change, adaptation, vulnerability, impacts, mitigation, you name it. But the authors that are, selected to work in these big assessment reports of the IPCC, they assess the literature. And I have to say that obviously most of the publications come from the global north. So there is a gap in knowledge coming from the global south. So when I see initiatives like this, a big program like this, and I like the word program, because I see it as long-lived, not something that you are going to do 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, but I see it long-lived, because this is what we need. We need to have the capacity to monitor, to understand. And when I asked for the floor in the meeting last month, I said, Professor Zago, the climate change is changing so quickly. so quickly, and that we need to have some ways to monitor these changes and see the impact that this is going to have on biodiversity. We already see this, shifts in fishes that are not suitable anymore to live in some areas and are moving to other places. So we are putting also some livelihoods of fishers into stake. And the interesting thing about IPCC, which I personally think it's quite interesting, is that it recognizes the big gaps in knowledge. So it specifically addresses that in the final chapters, gaps in knowledge. And when we are looking at the ocean, we see that there are, not only in ocean, everywhere, we see that we're still there in need of big research programs. And this is why I was so enthusiastic about PROASA. And also, when IPCC puts together its findings, I wouldn't say conclusions, because science advances continuously. It associates to each one of these findings a language that shows the strength of the evidence and also shows how the different literature assessed converge. And so the language can be, we have poor evidence or medium or high confidence. So programs like this will help, I'm absolutely sure, future reports that will enhance the language when it comes to the South Atlantic and Antarctic in the different objectives that this project is putting together. So we always say that we need long-term sustained observations, continued modeling. All the climate models shows that the oceans are going to be in the next century, highly impacted by climate change. So we do need observations to make the models more and more robust at each time so that we can act either through adaptation, either through, obviously, mitigation. So I couldn't leave my side here without saying that the state of the ocean and the cryosphere interacts with each aspect of sustainability reflected in the Sustainable Development Goals, not only SDG 14, 13, but with every aspect of the SDGs. So I think, Professor Zago, I only have to thank, FAPESP and the state of São Paulo, which is not only, this is not only nuclear here. You're talking about Brazil showing its face to the international community that is dealing with the ocean. This vast. We talk about Amazonia, but the ocean is something that we have to work with. And if you don't mind, it was interesting because in one of the climate change, the COP that we have every year, I remember very clearly that forests have taken a goal for approximately 10 years. I used to say, with the COP of the forests. But one day somebody came and they said, well, we wanted to recognize blue carbon. And nobody knew exactly what they were talking about. Blue carbon, what you're talking about. So this I'm talking about 10 years, 12. And little by little, the ocean are being brought into the climate change convention as well, recognizing its importance and, as I said, interaction with the atmosphere, terrestrial, people, livelihoods. It's impossible not to recognize the need to know more about this vast ecosystem. So thank you very much, Professor Zago, for inviting me to be here and to express my gratitude and a wish of a long-lived PROASA. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Thelma. We now give the floor to the Scientific Director of National Council of Scientific Development, Professor Olival Freire. Professor Olival is representing the President of CNPq, Ricardo Galvão.
I'd like first to to greet Professor Agopian, Secretary of State, Professor Zago, President of FAPESP, Admiral Jacques, representing the Brazilian Navy, and the authorities from FAPESP and from Buenos Aires University and the French CNRS, and the general audience. Speaking here on behalf of Professor Galvão, who would like very much to be here in this afternoon, but unfortunately, or fortunately, he needed to be in Rio de Janeiro for the inauguration of the IMPA Tech with the President Lula, which is a very important initiative of the IMPA to offer mathematical training in a larger scale, not only for future mathematicians, but for the general skilled scientific workers, scientific and technical workers. On behalf of Professor Ricardo Galvão, I'm sure that we would like strongly felicitate FAPESP for launching today the PROASA, the South Atlantic and Antarctica Research Initiative. And since we were informed in the last few weeks about this initiative, we have asked to us how we can contribute to this initiative. And I think that our first answer, not the final, but the first answer is that the CNPq, as the federal agency related to scientific research, has an expertise related to, not related directly to scientific research, because we are a funding agency. We are not a scientific institution. But we have some know-how from the almost more than 40 years of the PROANTAR and other calls. So we have acquired know-how, expertise about how to select the best projects, taking advantage of the pool of Brazilian researchers everywhere who collaborate with CNPq. So how to select the best projects, how to evaluate these projects, and how to manage these projects. All these projects are developed in very special circumstances. I would say that we have now an expertise with the Brazilian Navy, how to deal, for instance, with the problems of logistics when you are working in the scientific station in Antarctica. I think that our first reaction is that we can and we want to collaborate for the success of this very important initiative. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Freire. We now give the floor to Professor Vahan Agopian, Secretary of Science, Technology and Innovation of the State of São Paulo.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As the last speaker, I must be very, very brief. Well, initially, I would like to congratulate everyone, my colleagues of the chair, and to thank FAPESP for this initiative. Thanks to the chairman of the Board of Trustees, Professor Zago, the General Director, Professor Pacheco, and Scientific Director, Professor Márcio. Thanks because we are, let's say, getting across a very important topic. The subject is something very important. I'm civil engineer and I'm not expert in this subject. But as a Brazilian, I was extremely surprised when I learned through Marcelo Dottori that we have no idea what's going on in the South Atlantic Ocean. And not even the basic topic like the thermal gradient, the salt concentrations, distribution, emissions, the surface below the water. It's amazing. We only know, once again, accepting doctor's idea. We only know that it's different. It will be different of the North Atlantic Ocean. So this is a very, very important topic. The second point is the state of São Paulo is a quite relatively small state in the country. But we are very proud of our research institutions, our universities, and mainly with this institution named FAPESP. The excellence of these institutions are very well known, but the reason of this excellence is very easy to understand. Mainly the universities and the FAPESP are autonomous, not only academic point of view, but also financial and administrative ways. So this freedom of work makes this institution of excellence. And it's not possible to restrict our research work inside the boundaries of our state. That's why, for instance, Amazon forest is very far away from São Paulo. But thanks for the excellence of our institutions, the main institutions studying, developing research related with Amazon forest are in the state of São Paulo. And I hope, Professor Turra, if it happens, I return for this floor, let's say in a few years later, I can say that the institutions inside the state of São Paulo are also the main research centers from the South Atlantic Ocean and Antarctic. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you an excellent meeting, very important one, and I'm very glad to say long life to PROASA also. Okay, thank you.
So thank you very much, Professor Varin. I'd like to invite the members of this opening session to take their seats in the audience. And I'd like to invite Professor Alexander Turra, UNESCO Chair for Ocean Sustainability and University of São Paulo, to his presentation.
Muito bem. Não? Controla aqui. Tá joia. Boa tarde a todos e todas. Good afternoon, everybody. It's a huge pleasure to be here. It's an enormous challenge. But as you could see from the speeches of the first panel, we have a very good opportunity to make the difference. To make the difference for science, but not only thinking on science as an end, but thinking on sustainable development, considering the important role the ocean plays in this huge system where we live. So thank you very much for the inputs and for the incentive that this panel brought to us. And I would like to say, Olival, that this program was built based on the good experiences of Brazil, and ProAntar and CECIRME were a very important inspiration to what I'm going to share with you here. So we are not reinventing the wheel, but we are trying to build on the existing examples and initiatives. So PROASA is the program. It's a program. It's not a project. focusing on Southern Atlantic and the Antarctica. And in the baseline, in the basement, or in the root of this project is the idea that ocean transforms society. I'm using ocean in singular, not in plural, because there is an understanding that we have a big interconnected ocean on Earth. But we are also different oceans, because geopolitically we have here in the Southern Atlantic a different setting. We have a zone of cooperation and peace in the region. We have, as far as we know, no nuclear waste deployed here. And we also have the possibility to have a sanctuary of whales soon in this region. So it's important to understand the role of the ocean in fostering sustainable development, in combating poverty, in helping us to deal with food security and other aspects, as Thelma said, balancing the climate of the planet. So it's a very important role that the ocean plays. That said, I would like to bring some motivation to create the PROASA. Part of these arguments are related to the state of São Paulo or Brazil, because we need to foster and to support what we are doing here, but the overarching goal relates to what we will do with the science we are going to promote in terms of the achievements that are expected for us scientists, but also in terms of the changes that we need to do or to promote to improve the quality of the ocean and what it causes to the planet. So we, as you can see, research requires additional efforts to overcome the challenges of sustainable development. Peter Thompson said that we still need a lot of science and more science and different science to overcome these challenges. And Brazil must strengthen its protagonism in this agenda. Brazil is in the 11th position in the Global Ocean Science Report, and there is room for huge improvement. The state of São Paulo, as Professor Van said, we have here already a lot of institutions, a lot of experts that are working hard and for a long time in ocean and Antarctic science, but we still have room for improvement, to improve the leadership, the international leadership, but not only that, the way we are doing science and the goal of this science. We need also to encourage the generation of new knowledge and the promotion of technological advances and innovation aimed at society's demands. So this dialogue with society is extremely important. And when we mean about society, we are talking about private sector, we are talking about NGOs, we are talking about government. So this is another motivation. It's necessary to expand access and promote the integration of information. This is a huge challenge that we are trying to overcome with the creation of the INPO, the National Institute for Ocean Research, that's represented here by Stefan. Well, there are still areas that need to be better structured in terms of science, while others that are already well established need to reframe their approaches to today's scientific and social challenges, including inter- and transdisciplinary approaches. We also need to increase investment in science, technology, and innovation and encourage the expansion, diversification, and qualification of research and human resources, especially. We need to build, to create the community, the scientific oceanographic community for the next 15 years. And we need to enhance the integration of universities with companies and public policies to promote solutions demanded by society. So there are several challenges that are motivating the creation of the PROASA. Here I summarized some messages. PROASA is aiming to face this planetary crisis. Peter Thompson mentioned 3. We have climate, biodiversity loss, and pollution. We could include a 4th one, which is poverty, and other ones that we need to understand the relationship with the ocean. This is the map of Brazil, as CIRME is pushing, including the Blue Amazon. If you go to IBGE official maps, the Brazilian official maps, this is the map that you see there, showing the land, the continent, and the sea. And this was part of a very important assessment that we did under the coordination of Professor Cristiana Simon Seixas from Unicamp, which brought to us a very wide overview and understanding about the situation of the coastal and marine areas in Brazil. And one of the data that came from this assessment is that ocean activities represent about 19% of the Brazilian GDP, which is a lot. And this is underrepresented because we are not incorporating the rain that produces the commodities that we export, and we are not including the aspects that cannot be transformed in values. So the immaterial values of the ocean. So we are talking about a very important thing for Brazil. Brazil is an oceanic nation, and we need to understand that. And science should be correlated. The importance of ocean science should be correlated with that. Unfortunately, science is receiving less money than we could invest. Brazil is investing 0.03% of the total money invested in science in ocean. The world average is 1.7. This came from the Global Ocean Science Report produced by Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission every 2 to 4 years. So we have a big challenge to increase these numbers. And PROASA is here to help in this regard. We have a huge gap of information in the South Atlantic, not only related to biodiversity, but related to understanding of the socio-ecological system, of the functioning of the socio-ecological system, which is the basis to understand what will happen with us, so that if we are going to have a predictable and safe ocean in the future, but also to look at the possibilities to explore sustainably this region. And we have a huge challenge related to the implementation of SDG 14, because this is the least one among the 17 SDGs we have, even in Brazil. So part of these advances that we are not having is because we do not have the appropriate information to support actions, as was mentioned. And one of the important aspects that we need to consider are observations. As Thelma said, we need to observe. We need to share the information. And this is a paper that demonstrated the state of art of the initiatives in Brazil, both headed by Brazilian researchers, as well as international efforts. So we have here several initiatives that need to be congregated and accelerated in a way we will have in the future a very good system where we can retrieve information from the sea to research and to take actions. We have a very important momentum, the momentum of the ocean decades, the UN Ocean Decade for Science for Sustainable Development. This was created in 2017, and it's been constructed since 2021 to 2030. It has 3 goals. Identify critical knowledge for the ocean, train human resources and produce knowledge, and increase the use of ocean knowledge. This is the momentum, and this slide brings us a sample of the information that was used to create PROASA. As you can see here, you have the sector plan for resources of the sea, headed by CIRME. We have the decadal plan for the Antarctic science, produced by the Ministry of Science and Technology and CNPq. And we have different ones, the decade of the ocean, and the Global Ocean Science Report, the assessment of marine and coastal areas ecosystems in Brazil. So there's a lot of information that are sparse, that are not integrated. And PROASA is starting an effort to bring all this information together and create a movement where this information could have a possibility to turn into actions based on science. We have a framework. PROASA is considering the framework of the Ocean Decade for of ocean science for sustainable development. The Ocean Decade has 10 challenges, which are described here, focusing on different aspects from pollution to marine biodiversity, and also, for example, changing the humanity's relationship with the ocean. So we are talking about traditional ocean sciences, but we are also talking about social sciences applied to the ocean. We are not talking only about science done in the ocean, but also science done for the ocean, which is also important. PROASA is also following the framework that's been built for the International Panel for Ocean Sustainability, which is being strongly supported by FAPESP. And the idea behind the IPOS is the science for sustainability. So PROASA is not planning to do what the other programs do here in FAPESP, like the climate change program or the biota program. We already have biota and climate change programs, or the public policies program. We need to build with them something different, something that we do not have. And that's the idea of PROASA. And we are going to build it together with the programs and together with the scientific community. Well, PROASA didn't start today. It started some years ago. There were some steps, some moments. We started in 2018 with some ideas, with initial discussions under the coordination of Professor Brito. And then in 2020, when we had the pandemics, we restarted the discussions with Professor Luis Eugenio, and now after 2023, with the support of Professor Zago, Pacheco, Professor Marcio, and Professor Fernando, we had the final push so that we could include two very important partners, and bring an international and produce an international movement so that we could be here today after the approval, launching this program. So I would like to reinforce the words of Professor Zago, that this is not a program built without a strong collaboration of our partners, as you could see here, but with the support of people from FAPESP. So as you can see here, we have a very strong institution based on very important and skilled and committed person. And I would like to quote some people that is working hard together with this team that I mentioned here, headed and coordinated by Professor Zago, Pacheco, Marcio, and Fernando. So I'd like to acknowledge Professor Niels Olsen, Leandro Colli, Carlos Greff, Ricardo Trindade, Célio Haddad, Marianne van Sluismenk, which was from the very beginning supporting this program, and Professor Coney from the international relationships. I would like to quote also Marcelo Dottori, Cristiano Chiesi, Mariana Cabral, which helped a lot bringing contributions to the first documents we produced here, and especially, if you allow me, to acknowledge the staff of FAPESP, Bruna, Ana Paula, Fernanda, and Roberta, because we have two Brunas, and because of this incentive and the energy that you put here. So my deep acknowledgement and with you. Liviu, Nico, Liviu, are you here? Liviu is our focal point and is pushing a lot to bring the two countries together. So thank you very much for making all the connections and making it happen with the presence of our colleagues from France. And Juan Sala, thank you. Juan Sala and Patricio Conejero, which are here. Juan, there. Patricio is here, which did the same role regarding Argentina. Thank you very much. Well, that said, we are creating a process, a program, a long-lived initiative that needs to be constructed. So we do not, everything that I showed to you here is not written in stone. It's to be built together. But as you could see, the ideas are very interesting and are aligned to the big ocean agenda that we have now in the world, that you can see, which you can see in the next panel. For example, Professor Kiliparti Ramakrishna from the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution will bring some views that connect, like Professor Thelma said, connects the ocean to the climate in COP, as we were there in COP 28 with FAPESP and University of São Paulo supporting the ocean pavilion that he created there. So thank you very much. Well, PROASA has a mission to contribute to the advancement of knowledge about South Atlantic and Antarctica and its application to confront planetary crises and promote sustainable development. This is the overarching goal or the mission. And the vision, what we wish to see in the future, is to expand, diversify, and qualify the leading role of the state of São Paulo, because we are here in FAPESP, and therefore the country, because state of São Paulo is part of Brazil, so we understand that we are helping the country to improve the science. Now, in the scientific and sustainability agenda of the ocean, with a focus on the South Atlantic and also the scientific agenda of Antarctica, promoting transformational scientific, technological, and innovation approaches on relevant and emerging themes, regionally and globally. This is a vision for the next years. PROASA will play a key role in facilitating a process of establishing and strengthening partnerships and synergies to amplify and qualify the science, technology, and innovation system in São Paulo State and in the country, aiming to increase its protagonism and competitiveness on the national and international ocean and Antarctica agendas, and in the transition to sustainability, overcoming planetary crises, and promoting environmental and social justice. It's ambitious, but I think it's feasible. We have some values and principles following this motto of the United Nations Ocean Decade for ocean science for sustainable development. We need to produce the science that we need for the ocean we want. And this is based on this scheme produced by Martin Wiesbeck. Most of you probably know him, which integrates the science and the decision-making in favor of society, considering different aspects that dialogue with the idea of resilience, of prosperity, and of facing pressures, considering SDG 14 in the middle. So this is the framework. It's very close to the IPBES framework, the Intergovernmental Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, which was the basis, the framework we used in the assessment I mentioned it to you before. So behind PROASA, we have inter and transdisciplinarity, integrative and inclusive approach. This is one kind of characteristic of the program. It aims to value different knowledge systems, such as scientific and traditional, local or indigenous. It intends to promote knowledge co-design and co-production processes, integrating science with other stakeholders in society. We also aim to overcome barriers to diversity and equity, including gender, generational, or geographic diversity. So as you can see, we still have challenges in front of us to improve the representativeness of different groups in science. And we need to ensure that our resulting data and knowledge is shared and accessible. Okay, open science, which is a principle of FAPESP. PROASA has 9 thematic axes that were organized following these 3 boxes. So we are talking about building infrastructure, we are looking at the environment, but we are also looking to society. And we are trying to integrate all these aspects in a singular, or in a, not a singular, in a organized way. So we intend to expand the observation and modeling system of the South Atlantic and Antarctica, what Thomas said before. Also to create a digital representation of the South Atlantic and Antarctica aimed at using science to reduce society's vulnerability to ocean-related risks, floods, landslides, storms, and other things. In terms of environment, the idea is to understand the structure, functioning, and importance of the socio-ecological systems of the South Atlantic and Antarctica and their cross-scale connections. We are talking about transboundary effects and teleconnections, which governs all these ocean compartments or Earth compartments. In terms of environment, we also are aiming to conserve and restore biodiversity and ecosystems to develop nature-based solutions, for example, and understanding and combating marine pollution. In terms of society, we have the development of a sustainable and equitable ocean economy, fostering transformative technologies for sustainability, contributing to sustainable food security, understanding the ocean-Antarctic climate nexus to develop strategies for climate change mitigation and adaptation, and understanding of humanity's relationships with the South Atlantic and Antarctica, and identifying strategies to enhance, to improve these relationships. This was basically based on the challenges of the ocean decade. And that's very important because it was built by a lot of people for so long time, and we have here a good platform, a good framework to advance. And PROASA now can say that perhaps it's, not perhaps, but I think it's the only program related to the ocean in the world that is focusing on the challenges of the ocean decade. So it's really important because we need to fund the science that the decade is aiming for. We need to plan, we need to monitor, and we need to assess. The duration of PROASA now is considering 15 years. We have the first cycle of 5 years, which starts in 2024, and we intend to have 3 cycles that we'll consider. In the next ones, the learning from the previous ones. In a way, we will keep an adaptive management process. It is based in 9 thematic axes with 7 objectives and 21 specific objectives, which will be governed by a governance arrangement that's been proposed by FAPESP in the new way FAPESP is seeing the thematic programs. So this will be developed further in the segment. So there will be a coordination, a strategic steering committee, and working groups that will face specific demands. Okay? Related to these objectives. PROASA is structured on pillars of science, technology, and innovation, and considers the following objectives. Promote strategic partnerships. This is key. Partnerships with federal government, I will explain a little bit more, but this is key. Foster scientific advances. Promote technological advances and innovation. Develop human capital. Expand academic cooperation. Strengthen infrastructure, and promote knowledge dissemination. I will go through this very briefly, and we'll go deep in some of them. So promote strategic partnerships means science diplomacy. FAPESP PROASA intends to build this within FAPESP, integrating different programs within FAPESP, but also within São Paulo State, within the Global Research Council, dialoguing with the other state research councils in Brazil, so that perhaps we will have in the future more PROASAs in the other research councils. We also need to dialogue with the private sector and bring more resources to be invested in science, technology, innovation in Brazil, in PROASA, and also international organizations, while we are facilitating a kind of discussion to idealize the observing and digital representation network, a kind of observatory of the Ocean Atlantic, the South Atlantic and Antarctic. This is extremely related to IMPO CEGEM, the idea of having this kind of role led by IMPO. This is to represent the relationships between PROASA and the other programs in FAPESP. It's not exhaustive, but shows us the potential of integration of different programs that are already doing very important pushes, very important movements towards technology, innovation, or biodiversity, or climate changes. So there is a good asset already here to be brought to the ocean. These are some elements that I'm bringing to show you how this construction of partnerships could improve the reach of PROASA. So we are talking about international initiatives, BRICS, IAI, represented here by Edwin here, representing Anna Stewart, which is our coordinator, and IAI has a strong relationship and long relationship with FAPESP. And it's important that we foster and keep going. Air Center, we have Miguel Miranda. Miguel, aqui, representing Air Center, just to quote two, and IPOS with FAPESP signing the Brussels statement, reinforcing the importance of this process in the world. We also have Ocean Pavilion, as I mentioned, Rama was leading this, or is leading this, and other initiatives. In terms of Brazil, we have several initiatives like the BNDES, National Bank for Development of Social and Economic Development. It created a BNDES Blue program, where it's facing seriously several issues related to the ocean, including the marine special planning that the Maurice Jacques mentioned. So we have all these institutions, the Deputy Chamber of São Paulo State, the government of São Paulo State, and Professor Vahan is leading our science initiatives here in the state. But we still need to congregate other secretariats to discuss this issue. So transportation, health, why not? Habitation, living, habitation é ótimo. Portunhol inglês aqui. Housing. Thank you very much. He's from the Engineering Institute in the university. Of course, we haven't sold the CIRME and other institutions that we have in Brazil and other ones, so it's not exhaustive. And the second objective deals with promote scientific activities. We are focusing on the 9 thematic axes that I mentioned before, but specifically on Antarctic research. We understand that São Paulo State and FAPESP could contribute a lot with ProAntar, helping to bring additional resources or additional possibilities to improve the research we are already doing, the excellent research that we are already doing in Antarctic. We may also develop strategies to improve the possibility to use different facilities of other countries, like Patricio said, in terms of the Argentinian field stations in Antarctica, and also develop strategies to finance research that doesn't need to be there. So we are talking about models, we are talking about collections of biodiversity and other things like Ilana Weiner said to me these days when we are talking about that. So, and then we also need to encourage the creation of new research groups or bring new expertise to the existing ones. In a way, we diversify and we amplify our scientific community. Objective 3 deals with the promotion of technological advances and innovation, and this has a strong relationship with PP and PT, which are programs of FAPESP that are already doing that very well. So we need to bring them to the ocean or flood them with the ocean. So, and bring companies that are interested in this, in the development of what we can call sustainable ocean economy. Objective 4 is develop human capital. So we have the opportunity to promote, to incentivize researchers from São Paulo State to apply for example, São Paulo Schools of Advanced Science. We have 2 schools this year. One is coordinated by Cristiana Seixas, and the other one coordinated by Professor Thomas Levinson, that are somehow dialoguing with the ocean. But we may have more on different topics. Professor Wagner Valenti works strongly with food security, and this is a very important issue that could be considered for São Paulo School of Advanced Science. We also need to encourage the training and internationalization of our human resources. So as you can see, PROASA is trying to use the tools that already exist in FAPESP to foster or to bring energy to the scientific community related to the ocean and Antarctica. The objective number 5 is the expanding the academic cooperation. So we are talking about not only all that initiatives of science diplomacy, but also to encourage mobility by advertising the FAPESP instruments within the ocean and Antarctic community. So trying to push that. In terms of international cooperation, there is a huge list of initiatives. So these are agreements where Brazil take place, where agreements that Brazil signed and can help us to strengthen relationships with other countries, like the ZOPAC, as I mentioned before, the Zone of Cooperation and Peace in the Southern Atlantic. This brings us platforms for dialogue with other countries, like here we have France and Argentina, and within this new partnership for Atlantic cooperation coordinated by US, we have other countries in the region that could be engaged in this very, very important dialogue. Coming to the end, we have objective 6, strengthen infrastructure. This is important. Professor Zago mentioned the floating labs, or the vessels, the boats, and this is really important. We have very big difficulties to maintain and to making these labs operating, and Professor Paulo Sumida is here, and he's making a huge effort to maintain our capacity to research on board in São Paulo University. So Paulo is trying to find ways to perhaps dialogue with INPO and other institutions to bring innovation to this arrangement so that we can have floating labs, vessels working. And also we have opportunities for collaboration with Argentina and France in terms of this. So we intend to contribute to infrastructure sharing, which is wise. We need to contribute to the structuring of the ocean research infrastructure network in the São Paulo state, and also encourage technical training to repair and calibrate equipment so that we will not need to send it abroad for calibration. And the last one, and not less important, we have the promotion of dissemination of knowledge. So we need to have a public program, a program that is felt by scientific community and by society, that it belongs to everybody. That's the intention of the process. In a way, we promote scientific dissemination and also debate and synthesis of knowledge of relevant emerging topics. So FAPESP PROASA is a broker, is a catalyst of initiatives, including future arrangements of governance dedicated to the ocean that we need to have. In a snapshot, we have here some potential indicators of success, of impact of PROASA that comes from the increased investment in oceanic and Antarctic research, increased protagonism of Brazil in the Global Ocean Science Report, including the reduction of asymmetry of the Brazilian research in this report, the reduction of the information gaps to support ocean health assessment, and the evaluation of multilateral agreements endorsed by Brazil, including SDG 14. Improvement of SDG 14, and expanding the use of knowledge in public policies and sustainable business associated with the ocean. Expansion and diversification of socioeconomic activities associated with the coastal zone and the ocean. Increased awareness in society regarding the importance of the ocean and its actions on it. And lastly, increased priority and strengthening of the institutional arrangement related to the coastal and marine zone, nationally and internationally. Without that, we will produce science and the science will be not used. The next steps consider build the governance arrangement of FAPESP, and this demands internal dialogue with presidency, the director the scientific directorate and other fora in FAPESP, and the idea is to prepare 2 calls. One focused on the support of scientific activities in that nine thematic axes, and the other one is an initiative to encourage the training and internationalization of human resources, which is very important to build the scientific community that will work in the future. And to build that, we need inputs from the scientific community, and that's why we are here, to create this process, this rehearing process. In a way, we will build it together. And as a final statement, I would like to say that the ocean is everywhere, as you know. And the ocean is now in the spot here in FAPESP and needs to be in the spot, needs to be in the stage in other research councils, in other arenas. And we have this role to promote the ocean and to make it have the resources that we need to produce the science that we need to produce the ocean we want. That's what we are here, to create this community and build it together. Thank you very much. Good announcement. We have now time for a coffee break downstairs. If you wish to go there and refresh a little bit, we will return in 30 minutes to continue to the next panel. So see you.
Can we restart because we are a bit delayed? So I'd like to start this session by thanking Alexandre Turra for inviting me to mediate this second part of today. And I would like to invite for the table Jean Teves from the International Panel of Ocean and Sustainability from CNRS. Edwin Castellanos, Inter-American Institute for Global Change Research. Kilapati Ramakrishna from Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution. Miguel Miranda from the Atlantic International Research Center. And finally, Sijen Farid, Stefan from Brazil National Institute of Ocean Research. So for this second part, we actually want our panel to answer briefly, hopefully, because our time is short. Two questions, and I will phrase the two questions now. So considering the UN initiative for the Decade of Ocean and other international initiatives and networks, how PROASA can insert itself into this international scenario, and what contribution can the program like this focus on the South Atlantic and the Antarctica bring to the international scene? And the second question is, considering the future research calls that can be done in PROASA, what are the main knowledge gaps and what are the main approaches that the program must address to fulfill its role? So I would like to, if we can start with Dr. Kilipati, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I consider it a great honor to be part of this panel and to be in Brazil at this particular time. I have listened to not only the opening remarks of the panelists, but the extensive remarks of Professor Alexandre Turra on the PROASA. I consider this initiative, no matter the timing of it, extremely important. But the timing is also matters. The timing is when, as Ambassador Peter Thompson had mentioned, the timing is just right. This is the year of the ocean. The number of major conferences taking place around the world. The attention being paid to ocean, not only in terms of the Law of the Sea Convention and the High Seas Agreement, which was signed last year and adopted last year, but also the attention given to it by the Climate Convention in the Global Stocktake. You know, the ocean did not figure in the Secretariat report, but in the final version, there are paragraphs dealing with the ocean matter. And the global goal on adaptation, again, has relevant sections on ocean. All these are very important matters. And again, as you know, we are in the middle of this global ocean decade, and the major review of the midpoint is going to take place next week in Barcelona. So all these matters are important in terms of timing. But again, as I said, even without any of those things, PROASA has a lot to recommend itself. But on the timing front, let me also say that this initiative coming from Brazil is particularly timely because Brazil is not only going to be hosting the G20 summit, but it is also hosting the next conference of the parties of the Climate Convention in Brazil. So these two programs and what the attention that PROASA is trying to seek to give to the topic are extremely important. One of the slides that Professor Tura had presented is worth thinking about. Ocean covers 71% of the planet Earth. And the science money that is being spent on ocean globally is 1.7. We know so little of what ocean can do in terms of solving and addressing many of the problems that we have. And we need to learn that. We need to learn that urgently. And there are a number of other reasons why we need to learn that. But one of the things that we at Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution are trying to do is to connect the ocean to climate solutions. And why is that? Well, we have been at reducing the greenhouse gas concentrations in the atmosphere for 30-some years. And yet, year after year, we're increasing the emissions. Despite all the wonderful programs, despite all the statements and pronouncements by the heads of state and government in all these various climate conferences of the parties, the emissions continue to increase. So we need to think about, well, how else can we reduce those emissions? And as Secretary Curry used to very fondly say, there are only two things that you can do. One is stop emitting greenhouse gases. And if you can't do that, then take what is in the atmosphere out of the atmosphere. So the carbon dioxide removal becomes a crucial part of it. Okay, how do we do that? Now we're talking about direct air capture, spending billions of dollars, but that is going to solve the problem in a very, very negligible manner. And of course, we are in the country of Amazon, and what does that do? Lots of carbon sequestration potential. But this carbon sequestration potential is also to be matched with other pressures on land and what we need to do about that. So in all this context, we are talking about the potential role that ocean has, and as Thelma Cruz pointed out, about 25% of that is known, that 25% of the anthropogenic emissions in the atmosphere is taken by the ocean. So what else can we do? Well, we can do a lot more things, improving the ocean alkalinity, improving the kelp forest, improving the mangrove forest, and most importantly, looking very carefully at the potential that marine carbon dioxide removal has in terms of taking the carbon from the atmosphere and putting it into the ocean. There are issues that we still are not aware of, and my colleagues in Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution are spending a lot of time and energy trying to understand what the other implications are. But coming back to PROASA, the important thing is we are an independent oceanographic institution, probably the largest in the world. We have about 1,100 scientists, engineers, and technicians working on various matters. We have the largest program on global observations initiative. And before coming here, I started looking at what are the other initiatives. There is a Canada, Ocean Frontiers Initiative, and Europe has a Starfish Initiative, and lots of other programs. And when you think about it, what they are doing mostly is looking at Northern Atlantic, not the Southern Atlantic. And what PROASA does is looking at the Southern Atlantic, and this is absolutely vital. We need it in a most urgent and immediate manner. Secretary Blinken, the United States Secretary of State, last year in September had announced a program of bringing the Atlantic countries together, both Northern and Southern Atlantic. And my friend Miguel Miranda is now looking at the AIR, Atlantic International Research Initiative, and then he's going to talk about that. But connecting what we are trying to do in global observations with AIR and with all these various programs that are there in Europe and in North America, with PROASA is the way to move forward in terms of answering the questions that we need urgently answered. And I want to conclude with one last observation, which is Professor Tura in his concluding remarks talked about some kind of key indicators of success. What is it that we need to do? This is something, I'm not a scientist, I'm not an oceanographer, though I've been called both many times. what we need to do is really make the connection between the scientific research and the problems it is going to solve. How is it going to help the fishermen? How is it going to help the economy that depends on ocean? How is it going to answer the questions that the international agreements are asking? Once we make that connection, then we don't have to go about wringing our hands about how little scientific research money is actually being spent on oceans. I'll stop there. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ramakrishna. I would like to invite Dr. Jean Teves, please. Oh, sorry. Please.
There. Thank you very much. So I'm sorry I might not answer completely to your questions, and but we have many experts and all the speakers at the starting point of this event already started to answer that. My goal here is to try to look maybe not at what PROASA will do to South Atlantic and Antarctica research, but how has CNRS as an institution research organization participating to the PROASA dynamic, how CNRS is organized in order to participate to the PROASA activities. And I will be very brief, even if the slides will stay here and everyone that needs it can ask for it. So CNRS in France, in Europe, first of all, is organized internally to answer to all questions related to oceans and Antarctic. I will say a few words about it. Obviously, CNRS is also participating to many national programs that France has launched these last years that could also provide some insights and strength to the PROASA collaboration with our colleagues from Argentina, Brazil, the US, and other participating countries, obviously. And then I will maybe not talk about the participation to international platforms because it has been discussed already a lot at the opening ceremony. And then we will look at the matching mechanism with PROASA. So within CNRS, we have two task forces, one that deal with oceans, whose main objective is to look at the interdisciplinary approach of ocean. And this has been said at the opening speeches. This is one of the key points, I think. The task force on polar research. But there's also a network, a research network, national, that is being organized through CNRS. And that gathers all the universities in France and researchers that are working on oceans. So that's our international organizations, and that through those organizations and those internal structures that we will be working with PROASA. At the national level in France, if you don't know, there has been 3-4 years ago, the start of the France 2030 plan, in which there has been some money devoted to research and technological developments, and a few priority program. Gilles Pinet was talking about it at the opening ceremony, out of which 6 are devoted to ocean and polar research. I will not go into the details here, but you can see the objectives of all of these programs here, and 3 more here. The last one, on nature-based solution, will be launched officially this Friday in France. At the international level, and this has been just mentioned right before, there are a few programs to which CNRS is collaborating and working with, that are mainly at the European level first, but for you to know, colleagues from CNRS are collaborating and working to all of these activities devoted to ocean research and polar research. International level, I will not spend too much time on this because this has been broadly discussed, and we have here in this room experts and people that know that much more better than I do. IPOS has been also presented. IPOS, for you to know, is this international program that has a timeline here with the objective of launching officially at the UNOC UNOC event in Nice next year in June 2025, in order to start the activities around this platform. So now, from the Senate's point of view, at least, because thematically tomorrow there will be the scientific panels, etc., and they will have to, I guess, answer to some of the questions that you mentioned earlier. But we, as an institution, have to figure out how to organize ourselves also to participate to the PROASA mechanisms and to the international collaboration. So we have our own tools, obviously. There is the National French Agency that has an agreement with FAPESP, so we can also think of trying to make this agreement also go into the PROASA dynamic. We have our bilateral collaborations with Universidad de Buenos Aires, with Universidad de São Paulo and other universities, and the Wood Soul Institution, Oceanographic Institution as well. And all of our colleagues participating to international panels. So I will not go into details, but for you to know, it has been mentioned, the official opening of an international center in São Paulo last week, when President Macron was here. That will be also a tool, an important tool, and an important manner to, let's say, strengthen and assure that our colleagues from CNRS participate to PROASA. And just for me to finish, this is the map of CNRS offices and laboratories, international laboratories. There's one in the Universidad de Buenos Aires. We've been speaking with the people from Buenos Aires on climate change, or the impact of climate change, that will obviously participate to the PROASA activities, but many others. And the centers, the one that opened last week, but the fifth one in France, but with an international partner for CNRS. But obviously, those collaborations, very strategic partnerships with the university throughout the world, could also be, I think, part, when it's time, of the PROASA development. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I would like to call Dr. Castellanos.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here in this very special day. I'd like to start by congratulating FAPESP and the state of Sao Paulo for the very important and timely launch of this extremely needed program on oceans, especially at South Atlantic and Antarctica. I would like to take a few moments just to describe quickly my organization. I'm here representing the Inter-American Institute for Global Change Research. And this is an organization that was founded over 30 years ago by the governments of the countries in the Americas, in the continent. So we have 19 members, including Brazil, and our mandate is to promote research at the international level. And together with the member countries, we also have associate institutions. And FAPESP has been a long-time partner with us in promoting research on global change. We have a scientific advisory committee, and Professor Alex Turra is a part of that committee, a very active one. And our mandate really comes from the mandate of the different countries forming the organization. And last year, we received the mandate to focus more on oceans. As a result of that, last year, we created a committee, an advisory committee on ocean work. And again, Alex is a very active member of that committee. And following that mandate, we are in the process of developing a research call on oceans together with the so-called Belmont Forum. The Belmont Forum is an organization of funding agencies around the globe, and my organization, II, is part of the Belmont Forum. So many of the calls that we produce are through the Belmont Forum. And we are just beginning a process of developing a call on oceans, which starts this year. The process it takes a little bit long, about a year. So we start the process this year, and hopefully the call will be ready next year. So that's an immediate and important step in which we can see a collaboration with the PROASA program that we are launching today. And in general, my organization identifies extensively with the different objectives and values that PROASA program has, and presented by Alex. Professor Alex Turra was talking about promoting strategic partnerships, was talking about developing human capital, knowledge dissemination, and those are fundamental activities that our organization was created to promote. We basically promote research that includes partnerships among different countries. We promote also the development of human capital through workshops, to training activities, particularly on the topic of transdisciplinary research, because we believe that transdisciplinary approaches are key to making sure that the scientific knowledge being developed in research projects reach the end users that really need that knowledge in order to confront the different challenges that they are facing today. So co-designing of the projects, co-production of knowledge, those are terms that are included in the design of PROASA, and they are also terms that our organization promotes. We want to see researchers working not only in an interdisciplinary way, bringing together social scientists with natural scientists, but more importantly, having the scientists work together with other stakeholders, particularly from local governments, from local leadership. And finally, it's important to stress one point that was also presented today as part of the PROASA program, the long-term range of the process that PROASA is envisioning. The first phase of 5 years, but then extensive to a total of 15 years. I think that is crucial, and that is also something that our organization believes in. These research processes have to be long-term if we want to really capture the changes that we are observing in our environment, in our surroundings. So I think it's crucial that PROASA is envisioning this long-term process in terms of funding research. And finally, truly important, our organization focuses on global changes, and extremely important to recognize the connection of the changes that we are seeing in our planet with the changes that we are seeing not only in the oceans, but also in the Antarctica region. So in that sense, again, we recognize this as an extremely important and timely initiative that will for sure complement all the initiatives in terms of research funding that my organization is undertaking. So basically, I would like to conclude by indicating that we truly look forward to future collaborations, immediate future collaborations with the PROASA initiatives that were presented today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I would like to invite Miguel Miranda, please.
Bem, bom dia a todos. Changing to English, unfortunately. To let you know what I do really think on this initiative, I must tell you 2 stories of my life. First, I was in the IPCC meeting where the first report for the ocean was approved. as representative of Portugal, it was very difficult to approve the report. And the only solution was to have a first report on the ocean and the cryosphere. You can see the documents. And why was it so difficult? If you see the map that was shown here several times, you see that the northern hemisphere is mainly land and the southern hemisphere is mainly ocean. And this is why Brazil or Argentina or South Africa or other countries from the south have a huge responsibility in changing the landscape. You must change the landscape. And PROASA initiative is a step on that direction. That's why from my point of view, and frankly, I'm proud to be here, Alex, sorry, I'm proud to be invited by you, because I see this and the creation of INPO as two steps in the same direction, to take the lead, to take responsibility on the change. Another story, and it will be the last one, hopefully for you. I was for 3 years president of the European Center for Medium Range Weather Forecast, and 3 years vice president. And in Europe, since I would say the 70s, countries, even rich countries like France and the UK and Germany, put their assets together to be competitive on the global arena of meteorology and climate. The South, to be competitive, must do something not so different from that. You must mutualize resources. You must mutualize people. You must change people from country to country and create the big South. This is the only way to go forward. And think on young people, because the big advantage of the South is the amount of young people well trained by the universities, because the universities progressed a lot in the last three or four decades, that need jobs, need good jobs. And we need them because we need to progress in the service that the people are asking from us. And understand, we are not here to comply with the SDGs or any other naming that the international, I know good people, designed some years ago. We are here to serve the people. We are here to understand the problems of food security, to understand the problems of the coastal populations, to understand the problems of all the people whose life is dependent on the ocean, and to try to help them to survive for the next decades. Because be sure of one thing, up to now, the focus was the Arctic. You have an idea that every year there is 5 million hectares of burning fields in the Arctic areas, in Russia and Canada. But in the future, in the near future, the problem will be the South. And people will look at Antarctica level every day. So, PROASA, once again, is on the good problem, on the most important problem. But think on people, think on employment of young people, think on organizations that have commitment to their citizens, and help them, support them, and mutualize. And have also another restriction. From what we know, how the US developed, how Europe developed, only the best science can support the best politics. The best science, not any science. We need the best people doing the best possible research to solve the existing problems. And there are lots of existing problems. So let's start with the problems. Let's understand what to do. Let's attract the best young people. Let's put them on to work, and let's serve the people, because we are here only to serve the people. And I had a presentation. You are so lucky, you are not going to see it. But the last slide was a message to you. It only said, keep the spirit of the South. That's what we should do. Keep the spirit of the South. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Obrigada. And now, Sejane, please.
okay? Okay. Congratulate FAPESP for the initiative, Professor Turra for the leadership. I think it's very important in this stage to have a strong leadership to put forward this kind of program. And I'm talking on behalf of the new National Institute for Ocean Research, the INPO. We have been established by the Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation last year, and quite a new institute. I think that the initiatives of the program are very much aligned with we intend to do in our institute. The idea that the FAPESP could inspire other state foundations for specialized programs on the ocean. As already said here, it comes in the right time because you need to strengthen the ocean agenda, both nationally and internationally. At the moment, we try in input to organize our network. We have 24 universities working together, more than 30 companies, more than 15 specialized scientific groups working in this project of the National Institute. I think it is very interesting for the country, and I think also it will be a strong contribution, not only to Brazil, but also to the world as a whole. As Professor Miranda had said, we need to work together. I think our strength is trying to put different countries together, working in pro of the ocean, trying to protect the ocean, but at the same time, recognizing that the ocean is a new frontier of economic and social development. The blue economy must be considered seriously. In Brazil, for instance, the energetic transition will pass through the energy from the ocean, especially offshore wind. Nowadays, we are discussing about floating solar and many other possibilities that we have. I think we must be clever and work together with the sustainability, the cooperation to do these new events with social justice, and that the money that comes from these initiatives could be used by the society as a whole. I think just to finish my intervention about the points that PROASA proposed, I think some of them have some coincidence with input proposals. One is ocean observation. I would like to emphasize this. We have in São Paulo some coordination of some strong programs on ocean observation. In Brazil, we have more than 6 projects related to ocean observation. We'd like to put these together. We'd like to share information, and we'd like to have a strong data bank to put available for the community this data, and that this data could be used for prediction. The other point is oceanographic instrumentation. I think the Brazil in particular, São Paulo and other states, we have people that are well trained and prepared to develop some instruments. And I think with other countries, we can select a number of instruments that we are able to manufacture here in low cost and with maintenance and calibration that could be provided for different groups of research. I think that's what I'd like to talk here, and long live to PROASA. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for keeping the time. It was great. So I guess we still have a few minutes before we close for questions from the audience, if we have any.
Thank you. My name is André. I'm from Instituto Butantan. I'd like to know if there is any space in this program for drug discovery, bioprospection of new drugs.
Do you want to answer that? Maybe you're the best person to answer that. Sorry.
Yes. Obviously, when we talk about the sustainable ocean economy, this is part of the discussion. We are not talking only about offshore wind, energy, oil, mining. In fact, we are thinking about a different array of possibilities to have a sustainable ocean economy, which includes biotechnology and other approaches. And as I could understand, this is in between the lines that our colleagues were bringing here. This is one of our challenges to be overcome.
Please.
Just a quick intervention. I think biotechnology, it's a very important program when we talk about ocean. And I think all these programs relate to drugs and health in general. I think we normally need help. Normally we are from engineering, oceanography, social science, but we need some health specialists to improve these possibilities.
If I could just join the conversation, it is oftentimes said that we know more about the dark side of the moon than about our own oceans. And it is so true. For all the reasons that we talked about in the initial round of presentations, that we're spending so little money on ocean research. And we need to do that, and then we will be able to learn more about it. And the most recent agreement that the United Nations adopted on biodiversity beyond national jurisdictions, it has taken 20 years to come to an agreement. One of the main reasons is not about marine protected areas, 30% by 2030. That is sort of agreed to. But one of the main reasons the delay had taken place is marine genetic resources and how pharmaceutical industry might use that, and where the developing countries come into that scene. If it is only the industrialized countries, then we are not going to get very far in that. So what we need to do is really increase these ocean observations in such a way that all countries, particularly as Miguel Miranda said, the southern countries join in this exercise and then learn more about it. And one last thing I want to mention is, Alex mentioned about the Ocean Pavilion, and we had a meeting in Dubai with all the principals carrying out the largest amount of ocean observation systems in the world, from United States, Canada to Europe, many countries there, including GOOSE, the Global Observation System, as well as POGO, this Partnership on Global Observation. And the conclusion, as you listen to the whole conversation, developing countries come very little mention in that. So what the attractiveness of PROASA is how it is trying to do that in the context of the developing world, drawing on all that we have learned in the northern countries. And then we would be able to answer the questions, not only about the kind of drugs that we might develop in the future, but lots of other questions. We just need to learn lots and lots more about what our oceans are doing and can do. Thank you.
Time for one more question, maybe.
Oh, thank you very much, you guys, for being here, and time to learn a lot with you. My name is Edmar. I have founded Ilha Hub of Innovation, which we have more than 40 startups here around and doing in looking specifically for blue economy. I'd like to hear from you, what is you have found in terms of applications, real applications in real life. You said a lot of observations, but how we can transform these researches in benefits for our environment, for our society, and of course, for business perspective.
Can you have the microphone?
I think the point you are raising is fundamental, because if we do not have the support of people, we'll never have the support of governments. We have lots of models, for example, oceanographic models. But I'm a geophysicist, okay? Most of these models do not represent, for example, the situation in a beach, not even in an harbor, because they are physical models that only consider the conditions at a certain level, that is below the ice line. It is not representative of nothing that deals with the real life of people. For example, people that live on the intertidal area economy, for mussels or all this kind of stuff. Most of the things we have done up to now, to do better, we need better observations, we need better models. It should be clear, our models are primitive. They are models good for publishing, or to have global ideas of global circulation, but they do not answer to the question of the fisherman that lives in a specific beach. And to do so, even for example, our colleagues from biodiversity, do you know that they are putting instruments, different instruments to measure the conditions at the intertidal areas around the Atlantic, for example, because they are not captured by the models. So we must live our computer life, okay, our cyber idea, and go to reality. Reality needs answers to specific and clear problems of normal people. And by the way, forget the idea, the word stakeholders. There are no stakeholders. There are fishermen, people that work on restaurants, normal people like us. We are not stakeholders. Each one of us is a different person. And we need to answer the problems of those persons, not the problems of global ideas. I think that PROASA understands that, because I talked to Alex, and I know that he understands that. So this is a good way to go, and I do acknowledge your question as the most important, probably, that was put here today.
Fine. I guess we are, one more question, yeah? Yeah. There's one there. And I guess that will be our last question because of the time, but.
First of all, thank you for all your interventions. And I want to ask about the other side of the coin, that his question, that is how PROASA plan to deal with the data, the ownership of the data, because the data is important to create things, to grow the economy. But most of all are researchers, and we know that it's a problem to share the data. We talk about share data, create common repositories, I think, every day. But even if you create incentives to the researchers to share the data is not shared. How PROASA plan to deal with that, with this problem? Probably we can think together.
Any advice on sharing the data? I can say that if PROASA, it's a FAPESP funded program. And once FAPESP fund anything, the data must be shared eventually. So that's the main point here, but I'm sure people have more to say about that.
I'll say very quickly, our Ocean Observations Initiative, which is a very large National Science Foundation funded project, believes in democratization of data. Everything that we collect, every observation result that we have, we put them out on the web. But your question goes deeper than just making the data available. But the data needs to be interpreted, and again, what are its uses? How do you use it? And then that requires a lot of investments in capacity development, and then we would be able to move forward.
Just a comment. I think this is a serious problem. If the researcher would like to
put available your data. I think we have to build confidence in the researcher. And I believe this, if you build a strong and open database that could be available for the scientific community properly, I think the scientists will be willing to share the data. I believe that.
So we have a final question here. The final question.
Actually, it is a comment. If you want the data to be open, you need to put it in the contract. So the European projects now really you are not funded if you do not open your data. And also the publication need to be open access. And so there is no way otherwise. So if it is put in the contract, people will open the data.
So thank you very much for staying till the end. So I'd like to thank all the speakers and also Tuha for the organization of this first day. I don't know, Tuha, do you want to say a few words, please?
Just to say thank you very much for the panel, for the discussion, for the inputs and the advice and the excitement behind that, because this will make us move forward. And we need a lot of energy, good energy, to the process to flourish and to exist. That's the idea. So I'm completely happy in the end of this day, because we, as I said, the ocean is here, is in the stage, is here, and we are all together. And we will stay together tomorrow. Just to say that we have an open day to discuss in 4 panels, 4 different issues or themes related to the expected outcomes of the ocean decade. So we are organized the 7 outcomes in 4 panels. In a way, we can discuss and deepen and give the floor to you so that we receive inputs on what the types of aspects related to that theme should not be out of an eventual call that we will launch in the future. So the idea is to start this conversation with the community, the scientific community, and then expand it to other people, not stakeholders, other people, other institutions, in a highly Republican way, considering that science, open science, which is a principle of FAPESP that we need to reinforce. So thank you very much, and hope to see you tomorrow in a very exciting day, led by our moderators that put in effort on bringing us a very exciting discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you.